In this tutorial, I show you how to submit multi-frame animations using the UTSOA Render Farm and 3ds Max. This tutorial assumes you've already taken care of the basics, so I'll brush through them really quickly. You already have a core share on Arch data, so how to get to that will be arch-data.austin.utexas.edu. It'll give you your entire list of core shares. Just one way to get to it, creating a shortcut there on my desktop to ensure that I'm using a full UNC path every time. Next step, I already have a max file open, ready to go, 200 frames of animation. This happens to be rain on a teapot with several different maps, noise, and particle systems. To iterate using multi-frame animation, I have 200 frames I'm going to segregate into buckets of 10 just to see different parts of that sequence and then submit my entire time segment. So those buckets of 10, I'm going to run through 3 different iterations and resolutions. I'll start off by 350 by 200. Next stop is render output. This is where I'll go to my desktop, select that shortcut, which gets me directly into my core share. I go into IFL, animation 10 through 20, which I'm going to let the system do actually. The animation with bitmap as my file type, and select save. Say OK. This is my low res bucket of 10. Next step is to submit to the farm, selecting R render as a pull down and submit scene and save my model. Okay, my model's saved. Our submitter is open. This step, I'd like to set my animation into the production part of the farm and saying assign only. I think I'll let it preview it first this time around. There's my range of 10 to 20. I'm going to include that here in my file name because I'm going to iterate right here in the submitter and not have to go back to 3ds Max. This is 350 by 200 as a small test. I'm going to say submit. This time I'm keeping my submitter open, going back to my sequence and saying 50 to 60 as a bucket of frames to see what that segment looks like in my animation, and renaming my file name accordingly. Bitmap still the file, type and submit, keeping my submitter open again, going to sequence and adjusting this to being 150 to 175 and changing my file name to 150 to 175 so I can make sense of it, and say submit, keeping my submitter open again and looking at the last iteration to see what the last part of my segment looks like. I'm going to go with 190 through 200 as I have 200 frames total, adjusting my file name to make sense of it later. 190 through 200, still the bitmap type, still the same production part of the farm. Submit. This time around I'm closing my submitter, going over to RR control and hit update on the top right, and sure enough, all of my iterations are there. And the monitor, as a refresh, shows all of them. That's good. You can see my frame ranges here. It's each part or each bucket of frames. My very last step is, once I see that I'm happy with those buckets of animations, is to submit the entire active time segment at a higher resolution. This time around I'm going to Files and changing the animation name to full, and animation -full, so it makes sense of it. I'm going to keep the bitmap for now. Eventually I'd like to do TIFF and EXR, but I'll hit save. Back to the R render pull down, submit scene, and save my model. All right, my 3ds file is saved, submitter is open. Scene settings now are the entire sequence, 0 through 200. Animation -full bitmap, I'm going to throw that into the production farm once again. This is high res, and submit. This time I'm closing my submitter as I am done with my frame iterations and buckets of 10, and then finally my 200 frame animation. Going to RR control, hitting update on the right, and sure enough, there it is, my full 200 waiting to go. My others are in process, and I'd like to see if some of the frames are already saved. Sure enough, they are. Let's see, 10 to 20, 50 to 60, and so forth are just about done. Next steps would be to string all of those together to see the animations, and then finally compose the 200 frame animation. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching.